Hey y'all, and welcome to the Hillbilly Chicken Ranch. I'm Susan, your hostess. This is the Resourceful Homestead edition of my channel. I hope that y'all are enjoying these. And today we're going to make a sourdough starter, and then I'm going to make a loaf of white bread using yeast because I need to have some bread on hand in my home. That's one of the things I learned during Snowmaggedon is store-bought bread doesn't last that long, but we can always make homemade bread and put it in our freezer and pull it out for another day. But I wanted to start some sourdough because my plans for this year is to really get into making fully homemade bread using wheat berries, rye, and different textures and taste of bread. Maybe some pumpernickel would be nice to have a change of pace and to really get into the art and the habit of making bread weekly or every other day, depending on our family's needs. And sourdough doesn't act the same as regular white flour bread does. It has bacteria in it that actually slows down in the gut, and it forms something in the gut that really slows down the sugar absorption from your carbs. So we want to incorporate that into our diabetic diet. And the best way to do it is to make it ourselves. Now, I do have a friend that makes and sells her bread, and then I can get it at the Amish community as well. But I'll be honest with you, the way my friend makes it really tastes like a good yeast bread. I don't know what she's doing different, but I thought I would share that with you. And I do have a recipe from years and years ago that was given to me by a friend. And it was sent through an email, but they didn't say how to start the starter in it. So I have that. And so I'm going to be following the instructions for actually making the sourdough because this makes the best dinner rolls that I have ever tasted. And it will be using instant mashed potatoes, sugar, and warm water to mix with your sourdough starter to begin with. And then you're going to mix in your flour and other ingredients. So for the sourdough starter, it's really, really simple. You're going to measure out 75 grams each, or you can do 1/2 cup to 1/2 cup of water and flour to start your sourdough. Either way, you're going to get the 1-to-1 ratio that you're looking for. And you want your house to be 75 to 80 degrees, but in the winter months, that's kind of hard to achieve. So we're going to put this in a warm spot, maybe on top of our refrigerator or somewhere that I know is warmer. And hopefully we'll get the starter going within 1 to 2 days. It may take a little bit longer because my house is cooler, but we will get there eventually. And then I'll come back to you with the sourdough starter that we started today, and we will make some sourdough bread from the discard. That's the plan. And then after I get the sourdough starter started, we are going to make some white bread. For the white bread recipe, I'm using Make Your Own Groceries. This is by Daphne Metadaxis Hartwig. This book, I believe, is from the 70s. It might be older. Let me just look real quick. It is copyrighted 1979. If you're looking for this book, we purchased this at a thrift store recently, within the last year or so. And the recipe is found on page 106. Super simple white bread, right there. In case you're wondering, my bookmark is a coupon. And it's so old that it doesn't even have, it says no expiration date on it, y'all. So I could probably still take that into the store and use it if I wanted to. Anyway, we're going to get in here and we're going to make this. I've got all my ingredients measured out and ready to go. Okay, into my mixing bowl, I'm putting 1¼ cups of 110-degree water. And we're going to get that into our mixing bowl. Now I added 1/4 cup to my cup. We're going to add in 1 package of dry yeast, which equals 2¼ teaspoons of yeast. Sprinkle that over the top. We're going to add in our sugar, which is 2 tablespoons of sugar. I'm using raw sugar. And that's going to activate that yeast and get it blooming. So we're going to give that a little bit of a stir to get it activated. We're going to let this sit for about 10 minutes until we start seeing it bloom on the top. After your yeast, water, and sugar has been sitting for about 10 minutes and begins to bloom, we're going to add in our salt, which is 2 teaspoons of salt. I'm using pink Himalayan salt. It may change the color of my bread. That's okay. That's what I have on hand, and it's perfectly safe to use in your bread dough. Then I'm going to add in 1 egg beaten well. That's one of our farm fresh eggs. And 2 tablespoons of, it calls for softened shortening, but I'm going to use some homemade butter. And you want 2 tablespoons. Now at this point I could put it on my mixer because I do have a dough attachment to this, but I'm just going to do this with my little whisk since I'm only making 1 loaf of bread. Now if I was making 2, I probably would pull out the attachments and get that all done up. So you want to incorporate your flour a little at a time. You can certainly use bread flour, and it calls for 3 to 3½ cups of flour. It depends on how much humidity is in the air. We are getting rain today, so this is on a rainy day that I decided I was going to make bread. And I may have to pull out a little extra flour because there's some humidity in the air. So the dough is starting to come together. And at some point I'm probably going to have to get in here with my hands and give this a good mix. So this little dough thing that I got, I think I picked this up at an antique store, or I picked it up at a thrift store, I can't remember, but they sell them on Amazon. Really little neat tool to have in your arsenal for bread making. And my dough is just a little bit on the wet side. It's sticking to my hands. So I'm just going to give this a good mix. We're going to leave it in the bowl. I'm not even going to take it out and oil the bowl down and do all that. I'm just going to leave it in the bowl. We're going to cover this with plastic wrap and allow this to sit for 40 minutes to an hour until it's doubled in size. All right, my dough is a little sticky, and I'm going to flour my surface. I'm using a 1/4 cup there for measurement. And I may add some more flour to this, but I need to get it out of the bowl and get it onto a surface that I can work it. We want to knead this dough for approximately 10 minutes. I'm checking it, and it is dimpling a little bit. And I'll be checking for the window pane. You'll see me doing that in a moment as well. There are many, many techniques to kneading your dough, and everybody is a little bit different. You'll notice that I'm a little different too when it comes to kneading dough, but we're going to get this done, and hopefully it will be a good loaf of bread. So a little more flour just to get started there. I don't want to overflour it, but I don't want to underflour it either. And the idea is to get that dough moving, building up that gluten in it. I'm going to start by folding. It's head and shoulders, knees and toes kind of thing. And we're just going to start building layers in this dough. You're going to see me rolling it and patting it and stretching it out. And eventually we will have a good dough. I do need a little bit more flour here. And I'm going to put a little flour probably underneath it as well, just to keep my surface workable. And we're going to get this all done up. There's the folds. And you will get tired after 10 minutes, let me tell you, but you want to put in that 10 minutes of time because that's going to build that gluten up in your dough. And so we're going to flip it, get some more flour on it, and I'm getting ready to do the test. The window pane test was good, and now we're going to do head and shoulders, knees and toes, and folding. This actually helps the dough to keep its shape, and then I'm going to roll it. And that is also building up those layers and getting those layers together. I like the length of it. I'm going to pinch the bottom side to make sure that that seam is good and sealed. A little more rolling, and then we're going to tuck in the ends and get it into our pan. And my pan is pre-oiled with some olive oil. I'm actually using one of my larger loaf pans. I have several sizes, and I'm going to cover it with the same plastic wrap that I had before. And okay, this has been in my oven rising for about an hour or a little longer with a pot of hot water underneath it. And so we're just going to peel this plastic wrap off. Beautiful. I'm going to preheat my oven, and then this will go into the oven at 350 degrees for about 35 to 40 minutes. I may lower the heat somewhere along the way if the top starts browning too much. Fresh out of the oven. Just going to make sure that it's going to come out of the pan. And I'm going to check the internal temperature. And our internal temperature is 200 degrees, 0.8. It needs to be between 190 degrees Fahrenheit and 210. So I would say this loaf is done. I'm going to flip this, and we're going to butter the top. And I'm going to put a little bit of butter on the sides just to help soften this bread up. I think butter just adds an additional flavor to homemade breads. We're going to allow this to cool to room temperature before we cut it. It looks absolutely delicious. Okay, we're going to let that cool, and then we're going to cut into it. It smells so good. The perfect bread, in my opinion. This is a really good recipe. I'm going to be trying other recipes along the way, and I hope that you will come along for the ride. The Resourceful Homestead at the Hillbilly Chicken Ranch. Be blessed and a blessing. Here's some content I think you might like. Thank you for visiting our homestead. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, hype, and share to help our small channel grow. See you next time for more simple living, frugal tips, and farmyard fun.